All right, welcome to a possible experiment on the Black Lodge Trivia Night channel. Obviously, Black Lodge Trivia Night channel is a channel dedicated to all things Twin Peaks and to tabletop RPGs, but one of the things that I'm also really into is computer games, video games, specifically computer role-playing games, CRPGs. I don't know what the other two guys, Matt and Patrick, what their connections are to video games, but I've been an avid player of video games my whole life. And hopefully, if there's any interest in this, as an occasional thing that pops up on the channel, I'll throw some gameplay up of different games. Maybe not like total 100%, let's plays, but, just to give at a minimum, a taste of what some games are. Some games I might, play all the way through, just because I love them so much. And one of those games that I might do that for is Demon Souls here, which I've been a huge fan. I imported a copy of this to play on the PlayStation 3. I got my PlayStation 3 specifically to play Demon Souls back in, 2008, 2009. I don't remember when. It sort of had started to gather like this cult status. And I don't know what I was reading. I think it was a couple of articles, but mostly it was like screenshots that got me into it. And so I guess it started playing the cutscene already. Not that this is important, but it sort of had a, actually I'm going to skip this. You could watch the cutscene anywhere on YouTube or something. But this game, I don't want to say it was like life-changing, but it really set me on a path of being like a hardcore fan of this series. Now I say that, I've never played Sekiro very much. That for some reason that one didn't click with me. But all the other games, even, even games that I didn't love Dark Souls 2, but I, still played it start to finish. And, so, the thing with these games is they're known for being hard, right? And also I should say, like, I'm trying out an experiment. It's not just the gameplay. It's sort of like the whole streaming setup. I don't know if I'll stick with the camera. Being on camera, you don't need to look at this as much as you don't really need to hear this, but, I guess you're stuck hearing it at minimum. But it also, makes it a little awkward. It makes it tougher for when I can record if I have to worry about the background as much. Anyway, so yeah, this game came out like 2008, 2009, something like that. I think, I don't know if it was like the president of Sony or somebody who was involved high up at its release said it's like one of the worst games they ever played. And obviously that person could not have been proven more wrong by its, at least the popularity. But this game really opened my eyes and seemed so groundbreaking at the time. So obviously the first step with this is you create a character. There's, your typical fighters, this one's probably going to be a little more, looks like it's got a little more endurance, some dex. I'm not usually a mage class kind of person in these games. Usually I do melee builds. On my other channel, Trainwreck Games, I'm doing like an Elden Ring kind of run, and that's definitely a melee. But I'm going to see if I can sort of consolidate a lot of my stuff over to here instead of, Trainwreck I started more for my tabletop board wargaming. Now I'm going to choose royalty, and I know 100% that that's considered the cheesy class, and I am completely comfortable with that because, you know what? Like, I've beaten this game. I don't have anything to prove. It's not, for me personally, it's not about like some kind of, test of skill or anything like that. It's just, I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it to get through it. These games are challenging enough without worrying about anything else, so. Now, these are a lot of options that were not available in the original, obviously. I was going to say the character never talks. All right. So I was kind of curious what this, and also I confess I'm not, I don't care about stuff like this usually. So usually what I do is I try and go for sort of a plain Jane. But the one thing this is good enough. It doesn't really matter, right? So let's finalize this guy and let's get started.
King Alant the 12th, by channeling the power of souls, brought unprecedented prosperity to his northern kingdom of Boletaria. That is, until the colorless deep fog swept across the land. Boletaria was cut off from the outside world, and those who dared penetrate the deep fog never returned. But Valifax of the Royal Twin Fangs broke free from the fog and told the world of Boletaria's plight. That the old King Alant had roused the Old One, the great beast below the Nexus, from its eternal slumber, and that a colorless fog had swept in, unleashing terrible demons. The demons hunt down men and claim their souls. Those who lose their souls lose also their minds. The mad attack the sane and chaos reigns. Valifax also spoke of the enticing power of the demon souls. Each time a demon claims a human soul, the demon's own soul is invigorated by the life force. And the power of a mature demon soul is beyond human imagination.
Just so you know, I'm looking over here because that's where my PlayStation display is. So apologies for that.
Warriors lured by the possibilities braved the fissure to breach the accursed land, but none have returned. Pure of the Twin Fangs, Yurt the Silent Chief, Saint Urbane, Scurva the Wanderer, the sixth Saint Astraea with her knight Garl Vinland, and Sage Frake the Visionary. The colorless deep fog slowly creeps beyond Boletaria's borders. Humankind faces a slow and steady extinction. The deep fog will eventually swallow all lands near and far. But Boletaria has one final hope. A lone warrior who has braved the baneful fog. Oh, has the land found its savior? Or have the demons found a new slave?
Yeah, why not? I think that's the tutorial. So a lot of these games all set up the same. There's one person. Usually it's from the scrub class. I think in Dark Souls it's the pygmies.
Who fears not death. I shall guide you to the fissure. So that you may lull the Old One back to slumber.
All right, so start of the game. First, it's stunning. The original, I never thought the original was necessarily ugly, but I get that it wasn't a looker in some ways. It definitely didn't run very well, but this is unbelievable. And I'm really grateful that this remake exists because, to be honest with you, I never really thought if I was going to get a chance to play this again. You know, I don't know if I kept my PlayStation 3 disc for emulation. I tried setting it up at one point. It was okay. Didn't run great. And so I sort of relegated this to an experience that was behind me, and I would just have to hold on to memory of it, the nostalgia of it. And then, lo and behold, you know, I think Blue Point Games came about and not only gave us a remake, but really, I mean, really a remaster worthy of the game. It's, again, I'm really grateful for the work that they put in to get this up and running. So the interesting thing about, you know, you see Crescent Moon Grass, that's a healing item. And one of the, you know, you could argue that, man, look at that. It's really stunning. You know, they smoothed out a lot of the, you know, this was their first go of this kind of game in some ways, right? So they, you know, they did a couple things that worked, did some things that didn't. Some things are a little rough around the edges. You know, this, I don't know if this was in the original game because people didn't know that you could vault. I don't know if you can actually vault in any other Souls game. Anyway, so one of the things is, like, you know, in Dark Souls, they introduced the Estus Flask, which is your healing. Here, they have a number of different herbs that you can just sort of collect. And for all intents and purposes, if I'm being honest, the Estus Flask is the way to go. But there's something charming in my mind to sort of the rough edges of this game that I kind of miss. This was the first game I played where, you know, I was never into like old school Metroidvania kind of games. This was by far the most challenging game I had played in basically my entire life at the time. There is definitely truth to the idea of, like, quote unquote, getting good. But what I've found, and, you know, some of this might be a repeat from, you know, my Elden Ring run if you're watching that on Trainwreck, but what I found is that it's sort of something you only kind of have to do once. Once you know, quote unquote, get good to a certain degree, you've got the basics, except for, to some degree, Sekiro and a little bit Bloodborne. They sort of change the mechanics up in those enough that my playstyle did not translate. Like, Bloodborne is very aggressive, very parry based. I am absolutely god awful at parrying. Just awful. Sekiro, I don't know. I haven't played Sekiro enough to really know. But Bloodborne is, you know, parrying with the rifle. And maybe Sekiro is more parrying. And Bloodborne is just super aggressive, you know, because you get health back when you, if you take a hit. If you hit them right back, you heal. Sekiro, maybe that's more of like a parry. So now, part of the reason why people think the Royal is cheap is because you can cast spells. I haven't cast a spell yet. Sort of trying to remember how to cast spells. But yeah, so at the time, this was by far the hardest game I ever played. And there was some times when I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna stick with it. How do I... Oh, I see. Is that it? Okay. But I'm so glad that I did. Like, oops, I'm used to the countering you can do in Elden Ring. So I think what they're telling me to do two-handed because you can't break his guard. Anyway, so again, you get the classic. You get the messages built into the game that sort of explain the mechanics. The opening cutscene is a very classic. Obviously it's classic. It was the first one, but everyone sort of patterns after that. It's sort of like this basic story of like the world's falling apart and about to end. Here it's, talking about fog that's, enveloping the world of Boletaria. You might see this at some point in Black Lodge Trivia Night. That sort of rough idea is going to be something that I borrow a little bit for a homebrew fantasy setting that I'm expecting to run with Fantasy Age, the AGE system. But yes, the classic opening where the world's falling apart, something is coming that's going to kill everyone. The lone hero has maybe emerged that gives us hope, but there's also sort of like a laundry list of characters, of names that it mentions. And it's hard to have context for the list of names in these openings. So a lot of the times it probably seems like, oh, okay. But almost always those list of names, spell out the big players, people you're going to meet, bosses. And so it's interesting on a second play. I mean, I would say I played this more than once or twice, but on a repeat playthrough, it's interesting to hear those names and, now have context for them. Say, oh, right. And brings up sort of, memories of the experience you had. Now, one thing about this, like most Souls games, you are supposed to die to a boss. I don't know if you're supposed to die that quickly. I was hoping to get a shot, see how magic would work against him, but and if you don't, and so I obliged. Let's say I did it to save everybody time. That's my excuse.
Withdrawn from its vessel. Let strength be granted so the world might be mended. Soul of the lost withdrawn from its vessel. Let strength be granted so the world might be mended. So the world might be mended. This is the Nexus. It holds together the northern land of Boletaria. Thou canst not quit the Nexus, but the 5 archstones will guide thee to the outer lands.
All right. Yeah, so, that was... I think in this game there is no way to get back and fight that opening boss. That's one of the nice things about Elden Ring. Spoiler alert, there's technically a way to get back. So the first thing, again, I find this game just stunning. Even the PS3 version, I'd never seen anything like it. It was sort of this mix of like religious symbolism. I don't even know what to say the combination of elements is. It's just, it struck me profoundly. It just, like I said, I had never seen a game like this before in my life. And maybe that's on me because I haven't played a lot of, Japanese RPGs or anything, I don't know if that's a fair assessment, but that was the case. I, just hadn't experienced, those types of games before. So this just blew me away. And it instantly it instantly captured my imagination. And that capturing of my imagination, and I've probably said this in my Elden Ring playthrough, is what got me through how goddamn painfully difficult this game was for me initially. It was the first time I played a game where basically the game didn't hold your hand in any way. In more modern times, when I played old games like Ultima 5, Bard's Tale, whatever, like those games were old and didn't explain anything because, you took notes and you had to do your thing. This is, I think I might be jumping the gun. This was a more modern take on a game that you would think at this point they would have, started explaining things to you. But, so one quick spoiler, what I was thinking of doing, there's somebody you have to go talk to up there that took me the longest time to figure out. And especially on the PS3 where the graphics weren't nearly as good, it is not easy piecing together what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to go. The other thing I never really thought about for a while is that, these blocks are navigable, and there's, you can see there's an item there that you can sort of make your way down. There's an item there. Now the navigation is clumsy at best, as you're about to see. But, just a couple things to keep an eye out for. There are some hidden items right here right away. Sort of like the motley cast of characters here is going to be like this forlorn guy that's a staple of every Souls game in some way.
Well, you slipped through the fissure too, did you? You came for demon souls? Or to save this land and be remembered as a hero? Hunting for demons? Try one of the archstones. Now go. That is why you came, is it not? To this accursed Boletaria? You came for demon souls? Or to save this land and be remembered as a hero? Bah, it's all the same. You're just another prisoner of the Nexus.
So usually,
as long as we keep slashing up demons.
okay. If you're new to these types of games, usually it's good to exhaust dialogue, so you just talk.
You came for demons? It's all the same. We're welcome here.
And they usually start to repeat themselves. Sort of, this motley.
I'm Stockpile Thomas.
So one thing that you...
King.
Oop.
I didn't know what hit me. When I came to, I found myself here in this Nexus. My wife and daughter fell victim to the demons. But I would be worthless in battle. At the very least, I hope to lend my assistance to you brave slayers of demons. I would be happy to lighten your load and look after any excess baggage.
So what's unique about this game is that there is a weight limit for what you carry. Now, in other games, I think there's weight limits for what you are wearing and equip, but here it's what you have on you top to bottom.
When the Scourge came, I abandoned my wife and daughter and fled like a coward. When I came to, I was in this Nexus. I haven't dared venture outside these walls since. I wish I could do more, but I am ignorant of the world beyond these walls.
Again, exhaust.
A candle maiden cared for me during my first days here. She says very little, but has a kind heart. She's just the age my young daughter would have been. Poor girl. Trapped here with her eyes occluded by wax. If only something could be done to help her.
being blinded is a recurring theme in a lot of these games. A lot of people don't have the ability to see.
If only something could be done to help her.
Okay. So we've talked to the Forlorn. We've talked to him. One thing I don't think these games get enough credit for is their voice acting.
You new here. Are you here for my services? The name's Baldwin. I'm just an ordinary blacksmith. It's simple. Just bring me all the souls you can. In trade, I'll give you weapons. Or forge the ones you already have. With your souls, I can eke out a living. And with my weapons, you can go on living. Not a bad deal, eh?
Okay, so I'm not ready to do anything yet, but let's exhaust some dialogue.
If you haven't heard, there's another blacksmith at the entrance to Stone Fang Mine. He's an eccentric old man. He knows his trade well. He's the only sane one left in a town of soul-starved men. If you do meet him, no, forget it. That stubborn old ne'er-do-well will just chase you off.
All right, let's see if that was it.
There aren't enough smithing tools in this temple to handle all the work. Only certain ores can be used to forge weapons. But you'll just have to make do. And be thankful that I can do anything for you at all in this forsaken place. And be thankful that I can do anything for you at all in this forsaken place.
Okay, so that's it. Another thing is repairing equipment.
No interest, eh?
They got rid of that at some point, but that might have been something that made it through to Dark Souls. Don't recall. So we've got, so this cast of characters again. So, just to take it in a little bit. I just, again, this is something I said in my Elden Ring playthrough. And maybe this is something that's not as unique as I believe, but it's unique to me, is the art direction in these games is unreal. The way I've said it before is that you might not, it's a very specific set of choices that they make. And, maybe that set of choices is not for everyone. But for some reason it impacts me. Artistically, the choices they make impact me, and they nail that choice. They go for something and they absolutely nail it. So let's, you can start anywhere really. You can go, there's 1, 2, these are the mines. 3, this is a really cool level. We'll get there eventually. Right now it would just kick our butt. This one always caused a lot of speculation. You see, it's broken. And I think some of the rumors were that it was like cut content, or I don't know if it was actually that or if it was just always the plan. And again, a lot of the things I get, I might mention lore as I remember it, but a lot of what I remember I got from a really great sort of step-by-step podcast called Bonfireside Chat, and I'll put a link somewhere. It's Duckfeed TV. It's they have a Patreon. The Bonfireside Chat, I think, is behind the Patreon, but it's well worth a subscription, especially if you're playing one of these games. It's one of the most exhaustive deep dive discussions of these game by game that's out there that I know of. I think is well worth taking a look at. So one thing you can do if you know what you're doing is usually you start at the one behind this guy, the Covetous King. That's your classic. I think they're even labeled like 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, like a Super Mario's game. But what you can do, and I'm going to give it a shot, but it might go very poorly, is if you are some kind of magic build, I think you can go to, maybe it won't let me. I thought you could go to 4-1, and then there's a weapon you can sort of grab pretty quickly, but maybe you really have to start here. Now I'm wondering, it says Gates of Boletaria, and then there was a symbol under it. Now that symbol was white. And one thing this game has going for it is world tendency. And so world tendency is a thing that never shows up again. And basically, depending on your actions that are a little nebulous to describe, but one thing is, if you come in here like fully whole as a human, I don't know if you look at my health bar, it's chopped in half. My health bar is going to be chopped in half as long as I'm sort of like this ghostly apparition. And that happens if you die. If you die in a level, that as a human, that shifts your tendency towards black. Whoops. Now you're about to see why the mage is considered cheap. So right now it's white, but maybe not fully white. You can push it towards more white by beating bosses. And you can push it more towards black, I think, by killing NPCs. There's different things you can do. It's sort of this thing that I don't know if it's truly well understood by anybody. But I'll show you in a second one of the consequences of being able to get it up to all white or all black. I think they did I think at one point, like at Christmas, they just made everybody's world tendency white because it was the holiday. Anyway, if you can get your world tendency up to white, this door unlocks. And if you can get past that door, you can access that whole area. There's no real other way to do it besides get the white world tendency. Anyway, this is part of what immediately captured my imagination. This was sort of the first time I'd experienced sort of like fantasy horror in a way. You saw that dragon with the corpses in its mouth. But this just instantly grabbed me. It's one of the first times I felt like I was actually storming a castle. I like how the rapier sort of can go. Luckily, it's also quick, because I probably would have died there. Now, the reason why, you get the Crescent Moon Grass, part of the reason why what ends up happening is you have to farm. There comes a time where you might have to farm healing supplies, which they did in Bloodborne, and it was terrible. So, whoops. So the Estus Flask is the better option, but there's something to being able to rack up. The thing with Bloodborne is you can only carry so many on a run. Here, they don't limit you so much. You can carry like 99. There's something kind of fun about just, if you get decent at the game, just loading up and going to town. Ooh. Again, some people think it's like the easy win button. So now late moon, half moon, that one probably, I don't have a lot of health, so each one has different strength. Late moon might be stronger than half moon. Maybe it's the other way around. That's why it helps to be a royal or have something that has a ranged weapon, because there's some things here that are just a real beast. Especially if you're just starting this game. Again, in my Elden Ring, I talked about how the first time I played this game, I spent 11 or 12 hours on this opening level. That's how long it took me to quote unquote get good. And after that 11 or 12 hours, things started to come together a little bit. You know, I understood that it wasn't just button mashing, it wasn't luck. It was being careful when you rounded a corner. Now, Elden Ring has introduced a lot of quality of life improvements. It being an open world worked far better than I could have ever expected it to. But there's something about sort of the clockwork mechanical nature of just getting through a level. Like you sort of, the way you learn a level. I mean, they have that in Elden Ring with the classic dungeons like Stormvale Castle, but so I'm starting with this build, but this is not where I'm going to end up. Eventually, I'm going to switch to a different melee weapon, better shield. You're looking for a shield that can really block damage. I definitely won't be most likely sticking with this. I think it's a rapier. This nice little flourish there. It's always good to check every drop, every opening, because you never know, especially in these older games, where they're going to hide something. This should have a longer reach, but I don't know if it's long enough. All right, I'm not sure where that's coming from. Is it behind me? So as a general tip, you got 3 bars up there on the left. You got red health, blue is my magic points, green is my stamina. You know, health will keep you alive, but the real trick to these games is stamina. You got to manage your stamina, because if you run out of stamina, you're sort of dead in the water, and, you know, somebody can just take shots that you can't block. So it's really important that, you know, that's the bar you're watching. Now, one of the nice things about the Royal is, you know, you can sort of see you got a right hand weapons, you can switch between them, left hand, you can switch between armor, you get rings. You get the Providential Ring, which I think lets you raises items, but the Fragrant Ring is what the Royal gets that's so valuable. The Royal, and so you can see, like, when I'm not casting, my blue bar is refilled. And so that just makes it so much easier to keep going. Otherwise, I'd be managing, you know, another herb. So again, here's where it's good to sort of check your 6. You got something there. Not quite sure what's going on. If you look up, you see a ball up there. Read message. You know, there's a little... I'll give them a bump up. So, it's, you know, something's going to happen. It's a trap. And in this case, that ball breaks through the floor. And you can get the bastard sword. Now, the bastard sword and the claymore are my traditional go-to. The first time I played this game, I played with a spear because you can hold your shield up and still attack. Let me see if I can even do the bastard sword yet. I don't know if I can. Yeah. So usually weapons have a strength dex kind of requirement. You can get around the strength requirement if you two-hand it. Because if you two-hand a weapon, it makes it like your strength is 1.5 times. Oops. Just got lit up there. At least that's how it is in Dark Souls. I don't know if that's always been the formula, but... Now, I don't know... So part of what makes this game so difficult is, you know, I was mentioning your health bar is at half strength. That's what happens if you die. And most of the time you're playing, and like I said, if you play this game as a human at full strength and you die, you get black tendency. Also, it's just really hard to not die in this game. So, you know, the idea of playing it, you know, so not only is the game hard, but it makes you have to play it at half strength. So there are things that they sort of figured out to, you know, make it a little more reasonable, give other benefits to being human. Ranged weapons are always good because you can use them to sort of kite out enemies. I've got the, you know, part of why I took the Royals to have the opening spell, so I'm all set on that, but if I didn't have that, that's a good thing to grab early on. Again, it's just unbelievably evocative imagery, even in the old version where the graphics weren't nearly this level of fidelity. Now, what made this game so cool, and again, I don't know if this was a staple that I just never encountered, but it was sort of the idea of, you know, making your way through this gauntlet and then opening shortcuts. Oh. I was not able to achieve my goal because I stepped off a ledge in a blatant OSHA violation. And so now you're back at the beginning. And you do it over and over and over and over until you sort of get that one perfect run, and that's all you need. And in time, you know, that perfect run comes easier and easier. But like I said, 11 hours to beat this very first section. You know, here we're about 46 minutes in, but, you know, like the first 25 was not really doing the level. See, my stamina's out, so I can't swing. Can't block. I can't parry, so I'm a big fan of the backstab. In Elden Ring, they introduced the idea of like a guard counter, where like you block it, and that opens them up for a for like a critical hit. I'm a big fan of that because that actually lets me take advantage of some of that as a sort of sword and board kind of player. If you make me rely on a parry, I'm never going to be able to really do it. I sort of force myself to learn for one specific part of Dark Souls where it really changes the game. But even the first time I beat Dark Souls, I couldn't parry where I needed to, and made it to the point where I wasn't 100% sure I could beat it. Oops. Again, the main thing you want to do is you want to separate them. You know, you never want to take two people on at once if you don't have to. You want to cheese them. You want to trick the AI with obstacles, staircases, you know, whatever you need to do to get through these games. You know, don't let the hardcore fans dissuade you from just getting through however you need to. Because what you'll see is, depending on how much I do of this, I am not a good player. I'm good enough, but I'm not actually a good player. And what I like to say, and I've said this before, is if I can beat these games, anybody can. Not that it doesn't take some effort, but these games are intimidating, but they are 100% doable with the right mindset, patience, practice. All right, looks like the stone's only a one-time thing. Okay, there you see he's... You know, one of the little touches, this is the first time I played a game where I swung a weapon and it bounced off a wall. So you can see his spear, you know, has got a reach advantage, and that actually matters. when you get pretty experienced with this game, you end up sort of, you don't get hurt that often, or you know you can keep going without healing up so much. And you start to really amass the healing herbs and stuff pretty easily. So I switched to two-handed to try and get through his guard. Because that was something, that was a tip in the... Okay, so here should be my souls, I think. Let's see if I can do this without falling off. I want to let them, because those barrels, you can see... Now, at some point I picked up... Let me see. I picked up... I don't know if I need... Half moon. Crescent moon is what I probably should be using. That's probably... Let me actually take this out and switch it for some fire bombs. I don't want to use the fire bombs, but let me use the crescent moon. I'm stockpiling those. They probably are more than enough for what I need. So I just cut that. Now the body falls to the ground and I can go get it later on. Let me see if I got the range. What I was trying to do is I was hoping to... Those barrels there are explosive, so I was trying to... So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run away. I'm going to heal. Okay, it's not quite enough, but let me get my instant win button. Yeah, I don't want to be anywhere near him when he's swinging a flame sword around those barrels. And here we go. So we open up our first shortcut. Cling ring, we'll check that out in just a sec. Got some armor. So you can see basically what we've done is we've come back full circle to beginning of the level. But now we don't have to go around the horn. We can run this explosive fire gauntlet to get up to the top and move on to the second part of World 1-1 here. Okay, nope, that's not where I'm going. I'm going up here. Apologies, my voice tends to go pretty quickly, so even though I've got some water here, it's already a little bit of a mess. Now, there's one thing I say, let's try it. I'll probably screw it up. I don't remember exactly how to do it, but let's give it a shot. Again, there's no cheese too cheesy for... This guy's a beast, all right? We cannot beat him. But luckily, he is intensely stupid. So if we can get him to follow us without getting killed. Good. Come, 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 come. Get confused by the instructions. That's fine. As long as you stay on our 6. You can't outrun him too much. Poor guy. You got it. You got this. There you go. We're rooting for you, buddy. Okay, so what you're trying to do is you're trying to get in here, and I'm going to screw this up. But you need to have some... Okay, he's still coming. What you want to do is you want to stand like right... Oh! Basically, you want to do that. You want the AI. Who's stupid now, AI? Thank God we opened the shortcut, huh? Now, a lesser person would be white hot with rage. But I found my soul's zen. Just doing a little instant win button because I don't care. Now, the reason why I want to try and do what I was trying to do is because I think if you can kill that guy, I think you get a ton of souls. And maybe this is the wrong time to do it. Because I can't even level up yet. So it seems risky, you know, to chance it now. So maybe what I'll do is I'll save it. Souls is sort of known for its camera problems, at least in my mind. Okay. So we've got this shortcut, so that's great. Let's top off our health. I'm going to switch to the sword so that my magic points regenerate. Whoop. Good stuff. Honestly, I thought I was going to die. What I'll say is this. If you're looking to get into these games, I would say Demon's Souls might be the easiest of them, but it's difficult to recommend it as a first in some ways because, well, this one's not bad, but there are certain quality of life improvements that Elden Ring offers. But it also ups the difficulty in a lot of ways. Oops. That is how you get killed. Okay. So I think the next place we want to go is here. Yeah, I'm not going to risk my souls. You know what? I got a cling ring. Let me take a look at that. You know, this providential ring is nice, but this is what you actually want. And you're going to have to use this basically all the game. So, you know, you have 2 ring slots, but in reality you have 1. Trying to see, you know, it's been a while since. Are these my attributes? The sword is going to need no, see, those must be my attributes. I'm trying to figure out what the requirements are that I'm lacking. But anyway, so you see the cling ring. Now my health bar is at 3/4. That's basically how you're going to play most of the game. You think you have that full health bar, you don't. It's really just... Again, you can mount, which most people forget. The thief ring lets you sneak up on people, but again, it's not one I'm going to take advantage of yet.
That was a bold leap, a surprise indeed. Well, now that you are here, pray thee, fend off these dreglings.
Classic Demon Souls armor. I really am a fan of that, like, fluted helmet. All right, well, let's see. I'm not going to risk it, so let's... Unless it's going to...
That was a bold leap, a surprise indeed. Well, now that you are here, pray thee, fend off these dreglings.
Is there another one somewhere? Oh, okay.
My thanks for your brave rescue. I am Ostrava of Boletaria. Accept this as a token of my gratitude.
All right. But now you sort of got to keep your eye on him. Because he's going to go on patrol, but, you know, the whole place is crawling with enemies. Which, you know, he can fight, but... I think it's sort of like a NPC side quest if you can keep him alive. Now are these guys zombified? Or are they just humans defending the castle? And if so, why would they be defending the castle against him? Again, a little instant win, but I'm not above it. Now, the trouble, though, I will say, with going with an instant win button, if you're just starting, is you might not learn the get good part to make it a lot easier. Or maybe you never have to. Just go hardcore mage. Heartstone, Sharpstone, crafting materials. This game has a really obtuse crafting system. One might say it's pretty annoying, but it is what it is. Now I seem to have lost track of our friend here. So what's really impressive about this remake is my understanding is they kept, they improved a lot of the visuals, but the stuff underneath the hood is pretty faithful. So, maybe they've changed the animations, but the speed of which a sword hits still times out the same. So your muscle memory that you might have still holds true, which I thought was a very impressive feat. Now, I don't know, will he talk to us and say something else yet?
Now I take my leave. There is something I must do.
Okay. So I feel like we've kept him decently alive so far. Let's see what else we have to do. Again, let's get a little instant win going. Now, the problem I have, and it's the same thing I've talked about in Elden Ring, is every Souls game, I don't think my shield is blocking 100% damage. So I wish I could have a shield that when somebody was hitting me, none of it was getting through. Now, I guess luckily, whatever, there's a shield here early on in the game that's sort of my go-to. But getting it is extremely tricky, which I won't get into now. But it really helps out different parts of the game. It has some fire resistance. That's key. So I make every effort to get that shield to begin with when the time comes. Oops, this is going to go very poorly. Break his guard a little bit. Heal for a moment. Again, use the architecture because they're not very smart. Get my shield going and let's heal back up. As I stand here and take it in the face. Is that you? Now, can I pop these guys from here? Because they're going to all ambush me, but I guess not. So this is where we're trying to go next, I think. But first, let's just clear out the ambush on the roof. And we'll use the instant win button to get a little action going. But basically, what do we do to trigger it? I thought there were more. That's not as bad as I thought, but never quite know. Could I mount just anywhere? So I think this way is important. Let me just see if I can go this way. Nope. This way is important because I think this way has a merchant.
Good day to you. Care to look over my wares? Mostly stolen, but who's telling me?
See what he's got. So he's got healing items. Fire bombs are good. Short spear again. You can keep your shield up, and I'm gonna have to look up what these stats mean. So I don't want to go with like heavy plate because that's gonna end up giving me a slow roll.
Light or lowly fodder. The demons snatched their souls regardless of their station, plummeting them all into madness. And those who dare cling to their humanity were hunted down. It is the end of Great Boletaria as we know it. But hell, at least the demons don't send us to our deaths in battle. There's this skinny fellow, clad in the most lavish armor, who's always mumbling about some mission. He's another one who's managed to stay sane, like yourself. Probably some pampered little lordling by the looks of his attire. I'd give an arm just for the buttons off his shirt.
I'm going to assume that's the guy we rescued.
It is the end of Great Boletaria at hell. At least the demons don't send...
Okay, so we're going to say that we've exhausted it. Who knows? Again, we're being thorough. We're just exploring everything we can. Sort of the other side of where we started. It's interesting. You can't tell this, but my controller vibrated when he started to throw. All right, now we're back full circle. This is where we started. You know, we vaulted over to rescue him, but we could have gone this way and taken this loop. So there we go. So when I do my Elden Ring stuff, I use OBS, and I'm playing on PC. This is PlayStation 5, obviously. So I'm trying out some different software. I've been having a lot of crashes with OBS. My last Elden Ring session actually ended in a crash. So far, hopefully this is working out pretty well. I'm using an AverMedia capture card. So yeah, there's you can send this, but I'm not sure how you do it. I did not avoid the boulders. But then what you do is you sort of follow it down like a running back with its blockers. Let's do a little instant win. Okay, so the main way we want to go is there, but we have this other path, and I don't remember if there's some pretty tough enemies. Because you want to be really careful, because again, we cannot... There's the red dragon with the bodies, there's blue dragon. The shield I'm talking about is one of those items you can grab underneath the dragons. Now, there's ways to get them to go take off and fly around and do whatever, and then you have like windows, but this is basically like a suicide run. You can run down below, and that'll protect you from the flames, but it's a suicide run. You can kill them if you're good. Maybe once you over level or something. But I'm not going to do it now, because again, I'm carrying 3,200 souls, and in this game, that's a lot more than it is in future games. And again, I can't level up yet, so I don't want to lose him. That's another thing about this game. You know, it's really punishing at the beginning. I'm trying to get through because the dragon's coming, and hopefully he's going to kill everybody. Need some instant win. Okay, this is going badly because I'm going to get stuck. Now the problem is I don't know what I'm walking into. I really thought the dragon would take care of more of them. Nope. All right, let's circle back. Crap. Whew. All right. This is what this was all about, I believe. So, if you remember at the very beginning of the level, there was this massive towering portcullis that was locked. Now it's open. I should not have survived that, but again, that's why I took the instant win button. I'm not looking to be a hero. These games are hard enough as it is. And like, let's be honest, what a dumpster fire to put a player into. Like, this is the first level of the game. And that's what it does to you. I was hoping to get a backstab there, but now we're back to this. Now I might switch to instant win because I'm not looking to fall down. Because this is basically the end of the road here. Now these guys are a pain, but hopefully you can get by them. So you can see, like, here we are. We're at the beginning of the level. You know, we open up the first shortcut, which was that tower. Second shortcut is the tower to the right from the opening level. And sort of like, oh, yeah, that's kind of... You want to get behind those guys. Obviously, that big brass plate of a shield basically deters any damage. but they're a hassle to deal with. So what I'm trying to do is just... They're slow, so I'm counting on that. If I can... To make it so I don't have to deal with them. So there we go. We've opened up basically the whole level. So when you really think about it, it's like, you know, all of that is basically to go all the way to the left so you can unlock the shortcut, all the way around the back just so you can unlock that shortcut. And that's the whole level. You know, it's simple in some ways, but for me, again, I thought it was extremely elegant, and I wasn't expecting it. So now we're at the boss. Now the boss, well, you'll see. Not sure I can do this in one. I'd love to, but... why is it not throwing fire? So extremely susceptible to fire. But you have to get through. Nope. You have to get through its wall. All right, so let's try this again. Got some fire bombs going. Let's get some distance. I feel like that should get in there a little bit. There we go. So one thing they introduce in later games is if you hold down the D-pad, it goes to the item that's at the top of your inventory. That is not here, I don't think. Eventually, you know, there's just no wall left, and then you're just hitting the thing directly. But it takes a little while to get there. And I think I might actually run out of fire bombs. But that's okay, as long as I can have a shot at. I don't mind fighting it if it's just me and it. Yeah, let's see what happens when I throw some magic at it. Okay, got some guards back in place, so let's loop around a little bit. Did I use... Ooh. I think I did use all my fire bombs, so... Nope. Now watch this thing when it dies. I thought, maybe I was misreading that. I thought I remember somewhere something like you could see like a woman's apparition in the trails as it so there we go. We can now sort of fast travel a little bit, or we can return to the Nexus, which is what we're going to do. We've defeated now World 1-1.
Welcome back. The monumental awaits the above.
So you saw her eyes covered in wax again. That's like a recurring theme with a lot of these Souls games. Something's going on with eyes. Now, this part here, the monumental waiting for me above, that indication was not enough to get me to where I needed to go.
Monumental will explain the nexus to thee.
So, again, talked about the voice. Her voice work, I just find stunning. It's a mixture. It's just the perfect tone of like fits with the setting. It almost has like an ASMR kind of quality. It's like this sort of soothing quality to the voice work. So now you can see my health bar is at full. But what a lot of people do, because they're trying to avoid that black tendency, because not only does it change which parts of the world you can explore and access, but it also makes the game harder. So you can see here, like there's a lot of these corpses with a candle that's not lit. You can see the boy there with the lit candle. The message in front of it helps. His animation follows you. A lot of that I don't believe was in the original. And so it took me forever to figure out where I was supposed to go and what I was supposed to do.
We have long awaited you, Slayer of Demons. I am one of the Monumentals. We preserve the fabric of reality. There is a tale I wish to tell you. Once, we too a scourge of demons faced. In the distant past, under benevolent rule, the world was united owing to the soul arts. Until a lust for power caused the awakening of the Old One.
It's not just the art direction, it's the scale.
A colorless, deep fog, and the world faced extinction at the hands of the demons. Thanks be, we were able to lull the Old One back to its slumber, yet only after the loss of innumerable souls, and most of the world lost, erased by the fog. In order to mend the fabric of what lands still remain.
So again, 6. But in the game there's only 5.
6 leaders with 6 precious archstones. One to the king of a small yet industrious land.
I think that's where we just were.
One to the king of the burrowers underground. One to the wise queen of the great ivory tower. One to the chieftain of lost and ill-fortuned souls. One to the shaman of the tempest-worshipping shadowmen. And the last to the great giants of the northern lands. The archstones were placed in the fringelands that survived. We contained the Old One here below the Nexus, and prohibited the soul arts. Finally, we became monumentals, half-living sentinels of the fabric of reality. Alas, the other monumentals have perished, and only I remain.
Okay, so now we can go wherever. But
Now it is your turn. You must lull the Old One back to its slumber and seal it away for all eternity. If not, the deep fog will absorb all that we know. Have you the strength to bear this burden?
no, game over.
Yes, we are fortunate indeed to have you. Now, go forth and destroy every last demon. The Old One, without demons to feed its souls, will a new servant seek and lure you to its bosom.
I'm going to try to do that with Matt and Patrick. They're going to say, hey guys, you want to do this? And I'll be like, no. And just totally derail their games.
The old one and ban the soul arts. Then we spread the archstones, and in order to mend reality, monumentals we became. However, man's memory of history is ever short, and before long he repeated his mistakes. The monumentals perished, and the archstones were long forgotten. And the short-sighted King Alant once again roused the Old One. The monumentals perished, and the archstones were long forgotten. And the short-sighted King Alant once again roused the Old One.
So, one thing I've mentioned in my Elden Ring run on Trainwreck is that these games do a better job of explaining their nebulous story than you think.
The monumentals perished.
Okay, I think.
And the archstone.
At the same time, they don't make it easy. So, so let me show you. So again, we've got full health. We're a pure human form. We're not like half ghost, so we have the reduced HP. But if we die in a world in full human form, we push the world tendency towards black. Now we've just pushed that first world tendency towards white a little bit because we've beaten a boss and we did not die in human form. So what a lot of people do in this game, and I know it seems counterintuitive, is they will actually... I don't know what the... Well, let's see what the Pantheon is. They will actually just jump off a ledge here, and that way they return to... Okay, so these are other players that have beat the game in different capacities. Most phantoms destroyed, there you go. So it sort of tracks some stats and some other players. Anyway, so a lot of players will just jump off a ledge, die here to go back to the cripple, the sort of the form where your stats are crippled a little bit, so that they don't risk shifting the tendency in game. So what I'm going to do is, right now I've got 6,200 souls. It's actually a decent number of souls, and souls are slower to come by in this game than in other Souls games. So losing 6,200 isn't nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go level up, and then once I think I've sort of spent the souls, I'm going to spend... I mean, it doesn't really matter because I can just run and get them, but I figured I'll just take care of stuff first, and then I'm going to jump off a ledge and go from there.
Brave soul, for whom death is no fear. Prithee, lull the Old One back to its ancient slumber.
Okay. That might be a stone that turns you back into human form. It might... Sometimes it's worth... Well, so I say it could be worth it if you're about to fight the boss. You want to be at full health, but then if you die, you're just shifting your world tendency all over the place.
What is it? Seekest thou the power of souls?
So I will literally play this whole game in phantom form.
After all, thou requirest strength. Go ahead. Touch the demon inside me. Let these vagabond souls become thine own.
Okay. So here we go. Now we can level up.
Soul of the lost, withdrawn from its vessel.
You can see, like...
Let strength be granted so the world might be mended.
HP. Which one does stamina? Okay. Not bad. Starting to get our strength up a little bit. Get some more hit points. you know, again, I cast spells, but that's not really what I'm looking to do.
Myself, I am only here to tend to each flame. I keep the candles lit and serve the brave demon slayers who are trapped here. I keep the candles lit
Okay,
and serve the brave
so I think we've done what we're going to do
demon slayers who are
here.
trapped here.
Let's. We don't have a ton of. Let's see.
It's simple. In trade, I'll give you your souls. I can.
Oh, right. We got to worry about repairing equipment. So let's do that. Can I upgrade this? I've got the hardstone shards. I've got 4, but I don't have the cash. Now, what I could do... What does he sell? Okay, that repairs... Okay. Heater shield, does that do... So we're looking at the reduction, physical damage 100%. That's the kind of shield I want to get. Something with 100%. But I don't feel like it's worth it because if I can just get that one underneath dragon in World 1-1, there we go. That takes care of it. So let's see. Let's burn... Oh, maybe that doesn't. Maybe just okay. Maybe that's just a summoning thing. In the original game, there was not a how many would you like to use. It was just one at a time. One at a time. You know, I want to upgrade, but I feel like I should actually...
Thou seekest the power of the soul, then touch the demon inside. Soul of the mind, key to life's ether. Soul of the lost, withdrawn from
Okay.
its vessel. Let's strength
So we're
advantage
stuck.
the world
You know,
might
we're back where we
find
were,
out
but
finished.
that's okay. So now what we got to do is we got to take care of... You know what? I'm going to do it in service of trying to get that item. Which now I think they're screwed up. So there we go. Seems counterintuitive, but that is what you want to do. And now I got to run up and go get all my stuff. But that's okay. I will say, whoops, I did not take the right staircase. It is a real drag having to manage your weight because like the items that you use to upgrade equipment, hard stones and stuff, you can guess by their name. They have some heft to them. And so, like, there's some places where you can grab a bunch of them, but you end up going back and forth because you just can't carry them. Now let's see where it puts... If it puts it down there, I might be in trouble. So I might have just lost those 400 souls. And I just did. Okay. No problem. I don't even know if that stuff's worth it. Maybe it's just, you know, like something silly. So now that we've unlocked, we can go to 1-2. But one thing you can do as a magic user is you can go to 4-1. So first of all, when they're talking about the giants of the north, that's the one that's broken. And so they don't mention why the stone is broken. So maybe that's part of why people wondered what was going on. So anyway, this game is weird. Like certain Souls games, like you go one way, you're clearly underleveled. You go another way, you can sort of survive. This game, I feel like you can half survive. Forgot I didn't have my sword ready, so I might as well just... So the reason why you want to come here, and I'm not sure I can actually pull it off, is that somewhere early on in this level is like a magic falchion or something like that. But I just don't know where it is. But if you can get it, it's a really good starting sword. Whoa. Again, just trying to separate them a little bit. You're never trying to deal with more than one, like that one place in the where I got gang rushed. Just want to take your time and be a little tactical. Now my fear is that this sword is not as early in this level as I expect, in which case it might be a little bit beyond my grasp, but I'm hoping. I always thought it was camera again is not helping. Okay. That's a lot of souls. Let me try actually fighting one of these. Maybe I'm actually making things harder than it needs to be by trying to do magic. Nope, that's terrible. It's not great. My fear is that thing is like up there with that guy or something, and it's going to be really hard to get. I think these guys are very susceptible to magic, so maybe I just need to... Yeah, that's more damage. I mean, the backstabs were doing decent damage, but... Also, you can see you're getting 300 a pop. That's not nothing. So it's not a bad farming area. See, like at this point, I should be switching to a sword, I think. Bladestone shards, I think you need for like slashing weapons like scimitars. The hardstone you can see for like for the claymore, which is more of like a brute force kind of sword. Now, I feel like there's a way to do this where you only get one. All right. Not doing terribly when I can get them separated. Nope. That sweet, sweet backstab. That's not good. No. Nope. Okay. I'm going to stop it there. Hopefully I can retrieve those souls next time, assuming this was interesting. Again, for me, computer RPGs are almost as big a part of my gaming as tabletop RPGs, maybe more, just because they're easier to, you don't need a group. So in my mind, this is sort of a part of, what Black Lodge Trivia Night's all about. So anyway, thanks. Hope this was enjoyable on some level. Hope for the people out there that might not have tried this series before, you can get a glimpse of what it's like. It is, the difficulty is not exaggerated. It is hard, but it is a lot of fun if you can get into it. So thanks again. Take care, and maybe I'll see you next time.